The sun was setting over the vast expanse of dry, cracked earth that stretched endlessly in every direction. The horizon glowed with hues of orange and red, casting long shadows across the tumbleweeds that rolled lazily through the desolate landscape. In the distance, a lone figure could be seen riding toward an old ranch house, its wooden walls weathered by years of relentless desert winds. It was a woman named Clara, her face partially hidden beneath a wide-brimmed hat pulled low to shield her eyes from the harsh sunlight. She rode with purpose, her horse's hooves kicking up clouds of dust as she approached what had once been a thriving homestead but now stood as a relic of better times. The air carried a faint scent of hay mixed with something metallic, iron, perhaps, and it hung heavy around her as she dismounted near the chicken coop at the edge of the property. Clara hesitated for just a moment before opening the creaking door of the coop. Inside, the dim light revealed rows of empty nesting boxes and scattered feathers on the dirt floor. But then, something caught her attention, a soft rustling sound coming from the far corner. Her heart quickened as she stepped closer, peering into the shadows. And there he was, a boy, no older than 12, huddled in the corner, his knees drawn up to his chest. His hands were chained together with rusted iron cuffs, the links worn smooth by time and use. He flinched when she moved, his wide, frightened eyes darting between her and the exit behind her. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The only sounds were the distant calls of birds settling in for the night and the steady thud of Clara's heartbeat pounding in her ears. "Who are you?" Clara finally asked, her voice calm but firm, masking the turmoil within her. The boy didn't answer immediately. Instead, he looked down at his bound hands, his lips trembling slightly. I don't know," he whispered, his voice barely audible above the wind outside. Clara frowned, studying him carefully. His clothes were tattered, patched in places where fabric had given way to wear and tear. Dirt streaked his cheeks, but even so, she could see traces of fear etched into his young face. There was something about him, something more than mere circumstance, that made her instinct scream caution. Until this moment, Clara had thought herself immune to surprises. A widow since her husband died in a gunfight 3 years ago, she had learned to trust no one and expect nothing. Yet here she was, standing in front of a mysterious child whose very presence seemed to defy explanation. She knelt down slowly, careful not to startle him further. "How did you get here?" she pressed gently. "I ran," he said simply, still avoiding her gaze. "They chased me, but they won't find me here." "Who chased you?" Clara demanded, leaning forward slightly. Her hand instinctively drifted toward the revolver holster at her side, though she kept it concealed. He shook his head violently, panic flashing in his eyes. "I can't tell you. Please, ma'am, just let me stay here. I'll leave in the morning, I swear." But Clara wasn't satisfied with half-truths or evasions. Little did she know, however, that uncovering the truth would lead her down a path far darker and more dangerous than she could have ever imagined. Night fell quickly, blanketing the land in darkness punctuated only by the cold glow of countless stars scattered across the sky. Clara sat cross-legged near the fire she'd built outside the coop, watching the boy cautiously. He remained silent, curled up under a makeshift blanket fashioned from burlap sacks. Despite his attempts to appear small and unassuming, there was something inherently unsettling about him, an aura of secrets and danger that clung to him like smoke. Her mind raced with questions. Who was this boy? Why had someone gone to such lengths to chain him? And why had he chosen a ranch as a refuge? As the hours passed, the boy stirred occasionally, mumbling incoherently in his sleep. Once, Clara thought she heard him whisper a name, Ezekiel, but whether it belonged to him or someone else, she couldn't say. Each new clue only deepened the mystery surrounding him. By dawn, Clara had resolved to learn more. She retrieved water from the well and brought it to the boy, who woke groggily and accepted it without protest. As he drank, his fingers brushing against the chains binding his wrists, Clara noticed fresh bruises marring his skin. Someone had hurt him. Not recently, but enough to leave lasting marks. "You're hurt," she stated plainly, reaching out to examine his wrists. He recoiled instantly, pulling away. "I'm fine," he muttered defensively, clutching his arms protectively. "No, you're not," Clara countered sharply. "Let me help you." Reluctantly, he allowed her to inspect the wounds. They weren't life-threatening, but they told a story of neglect and abuse. Whoever had done this hadn't cared about his well-being, only about keeping him restrained. But then, Clara noticed something unusual about the chains themselves. Etched into the metal was a series of symbols, letters, numbers, and strange markings she couldn't decipher. It was almost as if they served some greater purpose beyond mere imprisonment. "What do these mean?" she asked, pointing to the engravings. The boy froze, his breath hitching audibly. "Nothing," he lied, looking away. Clara narrowed her eyes, suspicion growing stronger. "You're lying to me again." Before he could respond, the sound of approaching hoofbeats shattered the tense silence. Both turned toward the source, their hearts pounding in unison. Through the rising dust, figures emerged, 3 men clad in dark coats and wide-brimmed hats. Their faces were obscured by scarves tied around their necks, leaving only menacing eyes visible. "They found me," the boy whispered, terror overtaking his features. Clara sprang into action, drawing her revolver and stepping between the boy and the riders. "Stay back!" she shouted, leveling the weapon at the newcomers. One of the men laughed, a cold, humorless sound that sent shivers down Clara's spine. "Put the gun down, lady. This ain't your fight." "Oh, but it is," Clara retorted, her voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her veins. "He's under my protection now." The leader of the group, a tall man with a scar running along his jawline, dismounted and took a step closer. "We're not here to argue with you. We're just here to collect what belongs to us." "And what exactly does belong to you?" Clara shot back, refusing to lower her guard. The man gestured toward the boy. "Him. That little thief stole something valuable from us. Something we need back." At those words, the boy's face paled visibly. He opened his mouth to speak, but Clara silenced him with a sharp glance. Whatever secret he harbored, it clearly involved these men, and whatever they sought was worth risking lives to retrieve. "This isn't over," the leader growled, signaling his companions to retreat. "You'll regret interfering, Mississippi." Once they disappeared over the horizon, Clara turned to the boy, her expression grim. "Now, are you going to tell me the truth?" For a long while, he stared at the ground, his shoulders slumped in defeat. Finally, he lifted his head, meeting her gaze with tears glistening in his eyes. "My name is Samuel," he began softly. "And I didn't steal anything, not really. What I have, it's cursed." Clara blinked, startled by his confession. "Cursed? What are you talking about?" Samuel hesitated, then reached into the pocket of his jacket. With trembling fingers, he produced a small, intricately carved box. Its surface shimmered faintly in the sunlight, adorned with patterns resembling the symbols engraved on his chains. "It's called the Box of Shadows," he explained haltingly. "Legend says it holds power beyond imagining, but also destruction. When I found it, I thought it was just an old trinket. But then people started dying. Everywhere I went, bad things happened. And then they came after me, the ones who want it back." Clara listened intently, disbelief warring with curiosity in her mind. If what Samuel claimed was true, then possessing the box meant putting everyone around him in grave danger. "But why did they chain you?" she asked, her voice tinged with pity. "They wanted to keep me close," Samuel replied bitterly, "to make sure I couldn't run off with it. But I managed to escape during one of their stops. That's how I ended up here." Clara sighed heavily, weighing her options. She knew she couldn't simply turn him away, not when his life depended on staying hidden. Yet keeping him meant courting disaster herself. In the end, she made her decision. "We'll figure this out together," she said firmly, offering him a hand. "But first we need to move. Somewhere safer." Samuel nodded gratefully, taking her hand and allowing her to pull him to his feet. As they prepared to leave, Clara glanced one last time at the ranch house, its silhouette framed against the brightening sky. Unbelievable as it seemed, she had stumbled into a tale far grander and deadlier than she could have ever anticipated. And little did she know, the real dangers were only beginning. The journey began under the blistering sun, with Clara leading the way on horseback, while Samuel walked beside her, still bound by the heavy chains that clinked with every step. The terrain was unforgiving. Endless stretches of barren land dotted with sparse cactus and mesquite bushes. Dust swirled around them, carried by the occasional gust of wind, stinging their eyes and settling thickly on their clothes. Clara's mind raced as she plotted their course. Her initial plan had been to head east, toward a small mining town where she might find someone willing to help decipher the box's origins. But the more she thought about it, the less certain she became. Trust was a rare commodity in these parts, and revealing the box's existence could attract unwanted attention, not just from Samuel's pursuers, but from others who might seek its rumored power for themselves. As they trudged through the desolate landscape, Samuel remained mostly silent, his gaze fixed on the ground ahead. Occasionally, he would glance at the box tucked safely inside his jacket, his expression a mixture of fear and longing. Clara noticed this and felt a pang of unease. Whatever secrets the artifact held, they were clearly taking their toll on the boy. By midday, the heat became almost unbearable. Clara dismounted to rest her horse, tying him to a nearby tree while she rummaged through her saddlebags for water. She handed Samuel a canteen, watching as he drank deeply, his throat working furiously to swallow the cool liquid. "Thank you," he murmured, handing it back. "You're welcome," Clara replied, her tone softer than before. Despite her reservations, she couldn't deny the growing compassion she felt for him. He was, after all, just a child thrust into circumstances far beyond his control. As they resumed their trek, the scenery gradually shifted. The arid plains gave way to rolling hills covered in scrubby vegetation, and the air grew slightly cooler. By late afternoon, they reached the edge of a dense forest, its towering pines casting long shadows across the trail. "We'll camp here tonight," Clara decided, scanning the area for signs of danger. Finding none, she chose a spot near a bubbling brook and set about gathering firewood. Samuel hesitated briefly before joining her, his movements awkward due to the chains. "I'm sorry about this," he said suddenly, holding up his bound hands. "If I wasn't stuck like this, I could do more to help." "It's not your fault," Clara reassured him, though her words sounded hollow even to her own ears. Deep down, she wondered if there was something she could do to free him from the chains. They seemed ancient, perhaps even magical, given their connection to the box. Breaking them wouldn't be easy, but neither would leaving him trapped forever. After setting up camp, Clara cooked a simple meal of beans and jerky over the fire. As they ate, Samuel spoke again, his voice hesitant but determined. "I need to tell you everything," he began, meeting her gaze. "About the box and why they want it so badly." Clara nodded, setting aside her plate. "Go on." Samuel took a deep breath, then launched into his story. He told her how he had discovered the box buried beneath an old cabin deep in the mountains, its location marked only by a cryptic map etched onto a piece of parchment. At first, he hadn't understood its significance, thinking it little more than a curiosity. But soon strange things began happening. Visions, whispers in the dark, unexplained phenomena that defied explanation. "They say it contains pieces of another world," Samuel explained, his voice barely above a whisper. "A place of infinite knowledge and untold power. Some call it paradise. Others call it hell. Either way, whoever controls the box holds the key to unlocking it." Clara listened intently, her heart pounding as the implications sank in. If what Samuel said was true, then the stakes were far higher than she had realized. Whoever controlled the box could reshape reality itself, and those who saw it would stop at nothing to claim it. "But why you?" she asked finally. "Why did they target you specifically?" Samuel hesitated, looking away. "Because I opened it," he admitted quietly. "I didn't mean to. I thought it was empty. But when I unlocked it, something woke up, something inside me. Ever since then, they've been hunting me." Clara stared at him, her mind reeling. She wanted to dismiss his claims as fanciful nonsense, but the evidence, the box, the chains, the men chasing them, spoke otherwise. Whatever Samuel had unleashed, it was real and terrifying. The night wore on, filled with the sounds of crickets chirping and owls hooting in the distance. Clara kept watch while Samuel slept fitfully, his dreams played by nightmares. Several times, she caught herself glancing at the box, wondering what secrets it truly held. Dawn broke with a golden hue, bathing the forest in soft light. Clara roused Samuel gently, helping him pack up their belongings. As they prepared to leave, she noticed a faint trail leading deeper into the woods, a path that hadn't been there the previous evening. "What is that?" she wondered aloud, pointing toward the tracks. Samuel frowned, stepping closer to inspect them. "It looks fresh," he observed, "but it doesn't look human." Clara's hand instinctively drifted to her revolver. "Stay close," she ordered, her senses heightened as they followed the trail. The path led them to a clearing where an unsettling sight awaited, a circle of stones arranged in a perfect ring, their surfaces inscribed with symbols identical to those on the box and chains. In the center of the circle lay a single feather, black as midnight and iridescent in the sunlight. "This wasn't here yesterday," Clara muttered, her voice tinged with dread. Samuel knelt cautiously, examining the feather. "This isn't natural," he whispered. "It's otherworldly." Before either could react, the air around them seemed to ripple, as though reality itself were bending. A figure materialized within the stone circle, a tall, imposing man dressed in flowing robes adorned with stars and moons. His face was obscured by a hood, but his presence radiated authority and menace. "You have something that belongs to me," he declared in a voice that echoed like thunder. "Give it to me now or face the consequences." Clara stepped protectively in front of Samuel, her revolver drawn. "Who are you?" she demanded, her voice steady despite the fear coursing through her veins. "I am Malachar, guardian of the Box of Shadows," the figure answered, his tone cold and unyielding. "And you stand in my way." With those words, the clearing erupted into chaos. Trees bent and twisted as unseen forces clashed, and Clara found herself struggling to maintain her footing. Beside her, Samuel cried out, clutching the box as it began to glow with an eerie light. "Run!" Clara shouted, grabbing Samuel's arm and pulling him toward the edge of the clearing. But Malachar was faster, his form dissolving into shadow as he pursued them. They barely escaped the forest, emerging into open plains where Clara urged her horse into a gallop. Behind them, the sound of pursuit grew louder, accompanied by an unnatural howling that sent chills down their spines. For hours they fled, the landscape blurring past as they pushed themselves to their limits. Just when exhaustion threatened to overcome them, Clara spotted a familiar landmark, a dilapidated church perched atop a hill, its bell tower tilting precariously. "There!" she exclaimed, steering her horse toward the building. "We can hide there." Inside, the church offered little comfort. Its pews were splintered and dust coated every surface. But it provided cover, and that was all they needed. Clara barricaded the doors while Samuel searched for a hiding place, eventually settling behind the altar. Moments later, Malachar appeared, his form solidifying in the center of a nave. "You cannot escape me forever," he intoned, his voice resonating through the space. Clara raised a revolver, aiming directly at him. "Try me?" Malachar laughed, a sound that chilled the very marrow of her bones. "Mere mortals cannot hope to defy destiny. Give me the box, and I will spare your lives." "No deal," Clara retorted, her resolve unwavering. "Leave us alone." The confrontation stretched on, tension thickening with each passing second. Then, unexpectedly, Samuel emerged from his hiding spot, the box held high in both hands. "It ends here," he declared, his voice trembling but resolute. "Take it if you dare." Malachar hesitated, his expression unreadable beneath his hood. And then, without warning, the box exploded with light, its power overwhelming even those who wielded it. When the brilliance faded, the church stood empty, its occupants vanished without a trace. Little did anyone know, however, that the battle was far from over, for the Box of Shadows had chosen its next master, and the war for its control was only beginning.